Hello, this is Lee on Publicly Speaking, and this week I will be covering the 1998 Godzilla movie with Matthew Broderick. I like this movie. It is somewhat fun to watch, and while it is not an intelligent movie, truly intelligent movies seem to be the exception and not the rule. The problem that most people have with this movie is that the movie Godzilla is not a Godzilla movie. Let me explain. There is a certain kind of monster movie called the kaiju movie, and this movie is not one of those. Kaiju is Japanese and directly translates into strange beast, but refers to monster movies that have a monster, either beast, insect, or something mythical, but it is many, many times the size of a person. The movie Pacific Rim, which looks freaking awesome, actually comes right out and calls them kaiju. Another example of this is the point in any Power Rangers episode where the monster that was defeated is brought back to life, massive size, and the Rangers need to jump into their Zords, or whatever they're called that season, in order to turn into a giant robot and fight it. The point of the kaiju movie is to have the giant beast destroying cities being unstoppable before it is destroyed either by some superweapon, a giant robot, or a kaiju that was defending humanity, usually Godzilla. For instance, and I guess spoiler warnings for a nearly 60-year-old movie, the original Godzilla was one of the first kaiju movies, and Godzilla himself was created by atomic testing, hence his atomic fireball breath weapon. Japan, being the only country to get nuked in war, the fear of nuclear weapons was, and arguably is, a major part of the Japanese collective subconscious, and thus their fears were personified in Godzilla, the aberrant offspring of such a nuclear detonation. It is ultimately killed by an oxygen destroyer, which makes oxygen molecules disintegrate somehow, asphyxiating anything nearby, and Godzilla is killed with it while it is submerged, but we also have to kill off Tokyo's sizable fishing industry, with the inventor of the device killing himself to avoid his device being used against humanity, like nuclear weapons were. The problem with the 1998 Godzilla is that it is not actually about Godzilla. It is there, but almost as part of the setting. The story is actually centered on the scientist Nick Totopoulos, played by Matthew Broderick, and his ex, Audrey Timmons, played by Maria Patillo, who is an aspiring reporter. Broderick is brought in to help the military understand Godzilla, which decides that Manhattan is its perfect environment somehow, and Patillo uses Broderick's feelings for her to steal footage of an interview with the only survivor of the ship that met Godzilla in the beginning of the movie. She feels bad about this, but not bad enough to actually stop herself from screwing over Broderick, and only tries to make things right after her scumbag philandering boss steals credit from the footage from her. Broderick is fired, rightly, as an information leak, and if you wonder why the hell we should care about the woman who ruined a good man's career, then you have to realize this is not a kaiju movie, it's a romantic action-adventure movie. As a romantic movie, female immorality is brushed aside, though any discussion of that genre will have to wait for a different video. So, now that Broderick is on his own, he has to team up with Patillo and others to stop Godzilla and anything it's trying to do. Even then, Godzilla's death itself, spoilers, I guess, but the evil monsters in kaiju movies usually die at the end, so this shouldn't be a surprise. Anyways, Godzilla's death is not really the climax of the movie, and happens through no concerted effort of the protagonists. As a date movie, I would suggest this flick, as it has enough relationship stuff that women might be satisfied, while still kind of being a giant monster movie, which is almost always fun. There is a lot wrong with this movie, and if you want to hear about that, I suggest you see the Nostalgia Critic's in-depth, but spoiler-heavy review of it. I'll put the link below if you want to see it, but if you want to see the movie, I suggest you watch the movie before the review, as the review will spoil pretty much everything. Personally, I recommend watching this movie, though be aware that it is not a kaiju movie, as the marketing says it is, and you will be bored, confused, and possibly offended if you go into it believing that it is. However, knowing what it is, it should be fun to watch with your significant other and either awe or snark at the relationship parts, depending on your partner's proclivities. Now that college is finished for the summer, I will have more time and the motivation to start making these videos again, and hopefully continue them for more than a few this time. Next week's video will be on representative republics, why the USA is not a democracy, and why that's not necessarily a bad thing. This is Lee, publicly speaking and signing off.